Good morning, student. As I have given you one link of Google form for asking your doubts in my previous video, and some of you have responded on it and asked me some questions. So today this video is on their doubt. So the first question, a common question which I have received from your side is um, about radicals. That what are radicals? So it's just that you're getting confused with the name. You have read about ions, cations, or electropositive ions and anions from class 6, 7th, and 8th. This radicals are that cations and anions only, and radical can be defined or may be defined as an atom or a group of atom of the same or different element which carries a charge and behaves as a single unit is called radical. Even we are talking about charge here, so that charge means either positive charge or negative charge. So either it is a single atom of any element or a group of atoms, and which combine together and behaves as a single unit and have an overall charge on that are known as radicals. Same exact definition you have read about ions, so it is same only, radicals and ions. There are two main types of radicals, that is acid radicals and basic radical. Acid radicals are the one which are having negative charges on it. The acid radical is also called as electronegative radical or anion. So the radicals which are having a unit negative charge, like the if any element is there which is just having a single minus charge, like hydride, fluoride, chloride, bromide, a series of halogens, they are having only one negative charge, that is only one charge on them. So that are called as monovalent radical, acid radicals, negative charge on them, so they are called as monovalent. Then the one which is having two negative charges, like -2 in the superscript, so that will be called as divalent acid radical. And same for, if they are having 3, then it will be called as trivalent, and if they are having more than 4, then it will be called as tetravalent. Okay, trivalent, trivalent, tetravalent acid radicals respectively, and that will go so on. So this is about acid radicals. Then if we come up for basic radicals, so it is same as cations, it is also called as cations. So basic radicals are the radicals which are having positive charge on them. Like if there is +1, so it will be called as monovalent basic radical. If it is +2, then it will be called as divalent basic radical. If it is +3, then it will be tri, and if it is +4, then it will be called as tetravalent respectively in that series. So this is all about radicals. Don't get confused in that what are radicals. It is the same thing which you are studying in your previous classes, that is about ions, cations and anions. So basic radicals are also called as cations, and acid radicals are also called as anions, or we can say electronegative ions or electropositive ions. Okay, so this is all about radicals, an atom or a group of atom which have any charge on them and behave as a single unit. Now examples for these radicals are given on in your book on page number 10 and 11. Two tables are given for acid radicals and basic radicals, that is table 1.5 and 1.6. So you can see there it is clearly differentiated in your book only. You can see there from there that so many examples are given for that acid radicals and basic radicals, the elements which are having positive charge on them, and then the elements which are having negative charge on them. Then the next doubt which I got is a difference between acid, bases and salt. So in simple language, if I have to define this, that what are acid, what are base and what are salt. So in your class 8 I have taken you to the lab, and there we have performed some experiment related with acid, base and litmus paper. And there with this litmus paper we dipped it into acid solution, so that acid turns blue litmus into red, and then again if that the red litmus will be dipped in base, then it will be turned into from red litmus to blue. So this acid and base, if simply we have to differentiate in between acid, base and salt, So we can define acid as a substance whose water solution taste is sour and it turns blue litmus into red and neutralizes base. And a base is a substance whose aqueous solution, simply water solution also we can say, taste is bitter and turns red litmus blue and neutralizes acid. So this the common property of acid and base is that acid neutralizes base always and base neutralizes acid. Now if we talk about salt, so salt is a neutral substance whose aqueous solution does not affect any litmus. If we dip any litmus paper, either it is blue or red, in a salt solution, so it will not be affected at all, it will remain the. One more difference is there that acids are usually associated with hydrogen. The name of the acid, whenever we see that any acid is there, its name, suffix hydro, a prefix hydro and a suffix ic will be added in that, that is hydrochloric acid, hydrobromic acid, hydrofluoric acid. And the names of acid that containing radicals of polyatomic groups are given on the basis of their second element. Then bases have are from OH group, that is hydroxide. So the one which is having OH group in that, that is sodium hydroxide, calcium hydroxide, barium hydroxide, they will be called as bases. Now one of the student has asked me about that, madam, how we can identify any acid or base without litmus paper. So if you don't want to use litmus paper, basically this is the finest, easiest and easiest way to understand the difference between acid and a base. Usually perform that only. But if you don't want to use this litmus paper, so litmus solutions are there. And then if there is you don't want to use it, want to differentiate or identify it by using litmus, then there is one solution called phenolphthalein, and that pink color solution is used to identify that either the substance is acid or a base. So that experiment you're going to learn in higher classes, and you'll understand it, that how phenolphthalein will be used in identifying acid and base. So this is the basic difference in one line in between acid, base and salt, that acid is defined as substance whose water solution tastes sour and it turns blue litmus into red and neutralizes base, and then bases turns red litmus into blue and neutralizes acid, and salt is a neutral substance and it does not affect on any of the litmus paper. Next is inertness of noble gases. One of the student has asked me about that, madam, I cannot understand about the inertness of noble gases. So in class 6, when you have learned about the pure substances, impure substance, and acid, pure substance, in impure substance mixtures, so in that we have learned about elements and compound. So that in that I have explained you that elements are divided into four, are classified into four types, that is metal, non-metals, metalloids, and noble and inert gases. In that noble and inert gases, the category is helium, argon, krypton, and so on. So I explain you that these gases are the gases which exist freely in the atmosphere. They do not react with any other gas or any other element, and they exist freely in the atmosphere, and there will be no chemical reaction of these gases. So this they are not having any chemical reaction with any of the element, with any of the other gas. This property of any noble gas is called inertness of a gas. So the reason behind this inertness of a noble gas is the presence of 8 electrons in their outermost shell. As I've explained you about electronic configuration and octet rule, that the outermost shell of any electron should accommodate a maximum number of 8 electrons. So what happened in noble gases? Noble gases, they are already having 8 electrons in their in their outermost shell, and because they are having 8 electrons in their outermost shell, their octet is already complete, and their octet is already complete, so that's why they do not their shell is already filled, and that's why they do not take part in any chemical reaction to complete their octet and achieve stability. They are already stable, and hence they are chemically inert because their octet is already complete. They do not have any valence shell, and as we have read about valency and valence shell, that it is the combining capacity of any atom from any other atom. So, as we can see in the atoms of noble gases, there are already 8 electrons. Their octet is complete. They already the electrons are paired up, and there is no valency. No, it means no combining capacity. This means that they can exist freely in the atmosphere, and they will not show any chemical reaction with any other element or gas except themselves. If they have to react with any gas or element, they will react with themselves only. So that's why they are called inert in nature. It means they will not react with any other gas or any other element. So that's why this is the inertness nature of noble gases, and this is called the inertness of noble gases. So today I'm going to explain you this much only. This three doubts, 2-3 doubts are still remaining that I will explain you in the next video, because they are quite lengthy. So this that 2-3 topic I will explain you in next video. So till then, just use this video for your studies, and I hope you will find it useful in clarifying your doubts. It's a hard time for us that we have to study the certain, we have to study like this on online class, quite difficult, because you're not able to interact with us. But we hope that soon the conditions should be normal, and we will be back to normal school routine, and there we can clarify our doubts. So till then you can use these videos, and again, if you will not understand it, that school app is running properly now, so anytime you can just message me in the chat box about your doubts, and I'll try to clarify it there also. Okay, so thank you and have a nice day.